Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Mario here once again, and we are finally returned to the forms of Super Mario Odyssey action. So yes, as I mentioned to you before, I'm Mario here from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. So I think it's about like 5 months or 4 months ago, ever since whenever we come back to this game, see Venendo, because I'll explain more now as soon as we're able to actually get things started with this video. So even then, last time that we did actually manage to explore quite a bit in the forms of New Donk City, and able to actually decide to solve as many of those problems about this little city or the actual town actually resolves from that. Like, for instance, there was actually the Mecha Koopa that Mecha Wiggler. That way we can able to deal out with that. And also by the forms of able to set up the forms of a traditional festival. And we managed to able to listen to probably the most catchiest songs I've ever heard in a video game. And probably one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in a video game since then. So, which is pretty forms of, Jump Up Superstar, really awesome tune. See Fernando, you can now actually get this on iTunes now. See Fernando, this means includes the full version and the New Donk City Festival addition to the actual song. So, yeah, that's one of the things out right away. So, today for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think we can able to do that much in terms of today's video, aside from a couple of those power moons that we can able to actually just to get though in the forms of New Donk City, because after we did manage to able to conclude a traditional festival, that means we can now able to actually do even more missions from here on there. I'm probably not going to do all of the every single missions as far as this is concerned with for the most part though, because obviously we're going to be moving on to the next kingdom, which should be Snow Kingdom after that. But obviously, because of how the fact that, I know it's been a long time coming since we're actually now finally coming back to this game, because, long story short, because of the actual, let's just say, for instance, that, we did manage to focusing on the forms of the road to, Mega Man 11, which, it already came out recently for about, let's just say a week ago right now, or actually, probably to be more specifically, 2 weeks for now, because even then though, today was actually forms of, the 16th of October in 2018, so we've only got ourselves, almost 2 weeks, left until Halloween starts. Even then though, really quite surprised how the time itself, or in this case, to be more specifically, days, is managed to able to be gone super quick at this point. So even then, and also by the forms of how the fact that we did manage to tackle through by the forms of, every single classic Mega Man game, like 1 through 10, including Mega Man and Base, because that will be kind of included, but even then those water pointings out for a little bit more, due to the actual timeline when it comes to like several other games worth mentioning. So, but because of how the fact that due to the Mega Man 10 intro, they managed to able to ignore Mega Man and Base timelines. So even then, as a result, they most likely got out to stuck with the number-based system. kind of like how it did in the forms of like, in the forms of Super Mario Party. That how the fact that Bodo has she mentions about the fact that the more you talk to her about the fact the matter is though, this is actually the 11th party in the forms of the console Mario Party industries, which is true, because most of these handheld entries, well, the portable versions of Mario Party, they're more likely spin-offs more than anything. So even then, those one pointings out, or just side games, if you might as well say that much. So, anyways though, a few things I just want to explain about this actually, is the fact that, well, not long until when it gets to the point until when I was really looking forward to whenever I decide to replay through my own time of Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS this time, because obviously the game is now going to be 3 days left until it's going to be released in our country, in the UK. So, expecting I might be very excited, but also quite skeptical at first, because, well, I'm excited because of the nostalgic game has been finally makes a return, but in the forms of on the 3DS, not on the Nintendo Switch, which I was a little bit disappointed by that still, which, kind of like how it did by the forms of, like, Mario Party the top 100 and all that stuff, which I still found that to be quite a disappointing experience altogether throughout the majority of the the recent 3DS games nowadays, because we're most likely moving on to Nintendo Switch at this rate, because, whole bunch of games is now finally going to be coming out on the Nintendo Switch at this point. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna have to stuck with the forms of the Super Mario Maker build a Mario outfit for now, because, obviously, because of how the fact the matter is, though, is that I'm still a little bit too rusty coming back to this game. I will admit, though, right away, because, it's been a couple of days since I've finally coming back into this game, because, doing a lot of schedules, but in forms of, like, a couple of Let's Plays and etc. So even then knows what to establish that, so, yeah, that's what I'm pointing out. Alright, let's head into here, because I believe one of the power moons that we can able to get is by the forms of the RC car challenge right there. But normally we've already done that briefly before, but the way how you can able to actually control the RC car is the fact that you need to use the left analog stick to be able to actually accelerate or just go backwards, and even you can actually use the right analog stick to steer. So there's a little bit odd way to, is the fact that it's pretty odd to able to actually control this thing by the forms of a racing game like this. But honestly, I don't mind about it too much though, because even then, that's just pretty pure and simple for the most part. So, and I believe that I really do like the forms of that specific, Super Mario Kart remix music has been going on in the background. I've heard from the forms of like several mods out there, specifically on the forms of Mario Kart Wii to be more specifically, oh my god, the mods on Mario Kart Wii never seem to end these days, doesn't it? The fact of the matter is, though, is the fact that they've recently made this particular racetrack on the modifying by the forms of, like, Mario Kart Wii and stuff, which I think is actually pretty cool. But I haven't really done mods for even ever, because I have no idea how do I supposed to figure it out, because I'm not evenly a expert on PC gamings and stuff like that, because I'm more accustomed to the forms of like the actual game console and everything like that, and even including handhelds as well. But I digress. So here's another power move right there that we can able to actually easily get by simply we need to tilt the platform, and then we should able to actually get into the forms of that specific power moon. And hopefully we can able to do more uploading schedules of Super Mario Odyssey for the time being, because recently, if you couldn't tell already, about the fact that although we're probably not going to explain about this too much, because I've managed to able to pack away most of my game consoles for now, like my Nintendo Wii right now, even for the Black Wii I should say, that I've normally play Wii games from, but that's just for the time being, for the sake of being. So even then though, let's go ahead and get those regional coins there. In fact, it's been quite a few months since we actually just managed to able to, still coming back to this. I know I keep saying that because, well, obviously because concentrate on more things here and there, so I thought it was worth mentioning. So, still have no sign by the forms of the uploading schedules of the Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 3DS and Nintendo Wii U Let's Play at the moment, because I know those two games are usually indeed separate own games, because normally on the 3DS they usually came out first, so usually calls it Super Smash Bros. 4, and especially noticeable with Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U, it might sometimes it calls it Super Smash Bros. 5 or something like that, although I may be wrong, but that's just how I think. So anyway though, and thanks to the forms of the, ever since the announcement of, why did I miss that? Oh, that was really bad skills from my department right there, I must admit though. So anyway, thanks to the forms of the, the celebration of the forms of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is going to coming out on the Nintendo Switch. This means how the fact of the matter is, though, is that, new Donk City is going to make its, third appearance, at least ever since in, obviously Super Mario Odyssey, in the forms of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker for the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo 3DS all at the same time. So, naturally speaking, this might be the third time we're going to be seeing new Donk City when it comes to video game life. I wonder if it's possibilities, if it's anything possible, if there's going to be like, a Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games at some point or another, like the forms of like, the new Donk City environment in the dream events and stuff like that. I really don't know for sure because we haven't got to 2020 yet. So yeah, that's one pointing out. So another thing is what I explained about this actually is the fact that I've recently managed to able to got myself 2 Odyssey of, you know, £15 Nintendo eShop cards. I haven't exactly got the photos of Mario editions on those, but I'll get those at some point in the future. But because of that though, I was really jealous of Stuart right now because of how the fact that he's already obtained you know, photos with Mario, I should say, with that 3DS application. And I was really hyping for that for so long at this point, but too bad I have to cope without it, because even then, I just don't know what to think about it. So anyways, let's get to the actual point about the forms of the Nintendo eShop cards that I've got, which are 2 of them are £15 each, so naturally speaking, I've technically got £30 in total with the forms of the Nintendo eShop cards. And because of that though, if you're probably wondering, I probably can't commentate on the forms of like I'm doing right about now, like the forms of this game so far. It's probably because we've already know about Metro Kingdom or New Donk City is one of the best stages in the entire game, because usually it's remarkably different from any other traditional Mario themed world like that. In fact, I want to say this right now, even though that new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe still exists on the Nintendo Switch, I'm really still hoping they're going to be bringing us to the forms of a city environment level, although I may be wrong about that, just because of how the fact that, well, usually in most of those ports in the 2D, well, usually in some of those Wii U games, it seems it's pretty common right now when it comes to like Wii U games is now going to be ported over onto the Nintendo Switch. I mean, what's next? Nintendo Land Plus, or in this case Super Mario 3D World, or for this matter, well, technically Yoshi's Woolly World already has like another version, but that was on the 3DS, and also we've got like I don't know actually. Pretty much most of the actual Nintendo Wii U games is now ported onto the Nintendo Switch right now. So, and again, I really do apologize if I am getting really too close by the microphone, so I really do apologize for that, because I know it sounds not too pleasant about it, because you know. Alright, so sharp shooting under stage, so that's a nice little suppressant for that mission, and then same applies for this. Well, moon shards under stage, so yeah, just basically collect those 5 of those moon shards, and that's about it. So let's just go ahead and move out. Yeah, because I originally did manage to try to do this mission in the forms of the last video, but because I need to save that up, but if I decide to able to go even more after, you know, trying to able to farm more of those power moons, so I think I should probably save that for the later time. So anyways, next of all we need to do is that we need to take a motor scooter on top of that particular building up at the top there. Because of that, if we manage to able to do that right, then we could able to actually just get ourselves our next power moon, if I remember correctly. So anyways, once I'm gonna do that, I need to able to talk about this, is the fact that with the you know, the eShop cards I usually spend on, I think the ones I've spent on at the time is once again is on the Nintendo 3DS, because the reason why I did that is because you know how the fact that we've already tackled through every single Mega Man games, usually the console industries, like Mega Man's 1 through 10, including the likes of Mega Man and Bass for the Super Famicom / Game Boy Advance, but that's besides the point. We've recently managed to get ourselves the Game Boy installments of not only the classic Mega Man, but also the 2 of them of the forms of the Mega Man X series, like the forms of, well, let's start with the classic Mega Man series first. Like, we've got Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, so even then, though, at least we've got that. And especially noticeable with Mega Man 2 Game Boy version. And also we've got Mega Man 3 Game Boy version, and Mega Man 4 Game Boy version, and finally Mega Man 5 for the Game Boy version. So, but I still really think about is the fact that between Mega Man 4 on the Game Boy, in addition to Mega Man 5 also on the Game Boy, those 2 are by far is the most rarest games of the bunch. I don't know what this is though, mainly in the forms of Mega Man 5 on the Game Boy, because I really can't guarantee what the actual description for it though. But either way though, I did try and play a bit of on the forms of Dr. Wily's Revenge first, so I can get used to with the forms of like a good old school 8-bit rendition of Mega Man again, but this time on an handheld portable device, like for instance the Game Boy, but this time around I was all in black and white instead of the usual like color and all that stuff, unlike the NES, the Super Nintendo, PlayStation, Sega Saturn, and you know the rest. So, but even then, it feels a little bit tough to able to actually get used to with the actual Game Boy series of Mega Man games at this point, because normally the Game Boy usually has pretty much limited when it comes to buttons and all that stuff. Although, it kind of feels the same way for the NES for that small extent because of the, you know, the exact same buttons they have, like the dual A and B buttons, in addition to the start and select buttons, in addition to the directional pad as well. So even then, I was one of pointing things out, but with the absence of the forms of the L and R buttons. But that's besides the point, because more often than not, I'm more used to with the forms of Mega Man 7 and the forms of Mega Man 8 when it comes to changing the actual weapons and all that stuff. And even especially notable with Mega Man and Bass as well, and even Mega Man 10 as a result from that tradition. And heck, even especially noticeable whenever I recently played through on my own time, by the forms of in Mega Man 11. That way I can able to actually just manage to switch over those weapons so easily by the forms of those shoulder buttons. But in the old school Mega Man games, the only way I need to switch those weapons for is just simply we need to navigate through the pausing menu and stuff like that. So, look at that, nice little... Oh, that's definitely Bowser's voice, so we'll ignore that for now. Anyway though, and I managed to play through a bit of on the first stage. It doesn't matter what stage I have to choose, even though if I need to, if we might actually do a Let's Play of series of the handheld Mega Man games, well, to be more specifically the Game Boy installments, like Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, all the way up to Mega Man 5, I need to able to look up on the forms of every single Robot Master's weaknesses, even though they might be a little bit different because of how the fact that some of these Robot Masters can be a little bit of a shuffleware at the time, and in addition to that though, I need to figure out that the actual level design is as far as that's been concerned with, because if I did not even memorize with that all kinds of stuff, then obviously I might as well able to actually be doomed from the start. So even then though, although we're still able to actually use the save states, just like in the forms of how it does it in old school Game Boy games, because let me tell you right off the bat though, that because we've already mentioned about this ever since in Mega Man 1 Let's Play, in the forms of, you know, in Mega Man Marathon that we did done for about 2 months ago. Because of that though, I'm not exactly a huge master at Mega Man, but I'm pretty much in a casual play of anything for Mega Man series. But even then, I'm doing not so bad as far as the series has been concerned with. Well, 3 exceptions, which are both Mega Man 1, because, well, I do give that game some credit for. They did manage to able to actually did something like, you know, the start of the new, you know, mascot for Capcom and stuff like that, which is very iconic. And also by the forms of how it does it in, well, I did usually die at the very, or we did manage to get a game over in the forms of in Mega Man 2 because of the limitations of the forms of the weapons, restocking departments. So even that is one of the pointings out, and especially noticeable for Mega Man and Bass, to be more specifically the Mega Man's run through of the game, just because, you know, you guys should probably already know about this, is the fact that the game's design wasn't exactly built for Mega Man himself. So before I get to this, however though, I'm also able to actually anticipate this challenge right there, because this is without a doubt one of the more difficult missions to get. Well, it's not so bad in the beginning though, because in this one, all you have to do is basically we need to jump for about 30 jumps. So even then though, it's not too bad, and it's pretty easy, self-explanatory. If you manage to able to get your timing going, then you would able to actually just to clarify about this factor that you would normally get yourselves the first power moon. So yeah, it's nothing too much, it's not too complicated. However though, that doesn't even compare to the second power moon, that in the only difference is the fact that we need to jump for about 100 jumps. But if you screw up at least 1 or twice, then you're probably not going to get the power moon from there. So even then though, that is by far the most difficult to get, but I'll get that in a later time, so don't worry. but for now on though, we'll take this Power Moon as it is. So even then though, that we could able to actually just try to able to get the second Power Moon during the other times. So even then, for now on though, we'll concentrate on the forms of every single like, well, of a couple of Power Moons that we can able to hopefully try to get through. So anyway though, back to what I was saying, in addition to the forms of obtaining both, or in this case, all of those classic Mega Man games on the Game Boy, which is, you know, the first to the fifth one, we've also managed to get ourselves the Game Boy Color renditions of the Mega Man X series, like the forms of Mega Man Extreme and Mega Man Extreme 2, which are essentially both of those games that have been released on the Game Boy Color. I haven't really tried those games out yet, because I haven't really tried testing it out with the Mega Man X series before beyond that, but normally we've got those in the forms of Mega Man X Legacy collections though, so that's the only good thing, because if you're trying to able to get something physical about the forms of the Mega Man X series, good luck, because they are way too pricey these days, especially noticeable how expensive they are. Most notably by the forms of like, let's just say Mega Man X6 is the most expensive of the bunch, and especially noticeable by the forms of like Mega Man X2 and especially X3, because of the actual like the special unique feature of the forms of the Super Nintendo cartridges these days. That's the forms of the Super Effects chip or something like that. You know, kind of like how we did in Star Wing or Star Fox if you lived in North America, and especially noticeable with the forms of Yoshi's Island and all that stuff, and Stunt Racer, and I think that's about it for the most part though. Let me know in the comments below to be able to actually think of what other kinds of Super Nintendo games that utilize the Super Effects chip on that specific game. So even then though, that's because I just probably want to point things out of how many games there are that utilizes that feature. So, and yeah, that's as far as I can say about this, and also I've managed to spend on quite a few amount of cash by the forms of going back into Team Kirby Clash Deluxe for the Nintendo 3DS eShop, because it's been a long time since I actually finally going to come back into that game, ever since about a year ago, because I just managed to stop playing the game apparently, just because, you know how the fact of the matter is though, how painful you're gonna have to like pay a lot of money to able to actually grind for more of those gem apples and stuff like that. If you really want to 100% through everything of the game, and to be more specifically trying to get even more of those costumes on your way, then basically you have to able to actually just to get like a crap ton of like gem apples, and especially noticeable with the forms of like getting all kinds of real cash for the time until you're able to actually decide to able to go ahead and farm those you know, gem apples as a result. So yeah, it's a little bit more grind heavy and everything else, even though I could originally try to able to get the ones with the forms of £17.99 one with the forms of like 2,000 or more gem apples as a result, but I'll do that in a later time though, once I finally manage to obtain Photos with Mario application, because I've been waiting for that for so long at this point. I'm not even kidding, because my patience is actually gone not so great of impatience at this time goes forth, but that I digress. Oh yeah, speaking of such, is the fact that I've recently managed to able to pick up by the forms of not one, but two, the original N64 cartridges of both The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, even though I've already got that 4 times right now, which are the Wii's Virtual Console version, and especially noticeable with The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker bonus disc with it, with, of course, Ocarina of Time GameCube disc, and especially noticeable with the 3DS remake by the forms of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D. So, I'm guessing this might be the 4th time I managed to pick up Ocarina of Time, but except on the forms of the original physical form of the N64 cartridge version of it. So, because the reason why I decided to choose that, in addition to the Majora's Mask as well, so I want to point things out, that's only because I heard from plenty of people seem to complain about the fact that with the forms of, whenever you're trying to perform the Ocarina of Time flute or anything like that, or in this case the Ocarina, you have to input those, you know, the correct button sequence, whatever you're trying to do like specific things, like solving as many puzzles, or even especially noticeable like these warping stations and stuff like that. And even especially noticeable whenever you're just trying to proceed to the dungeons to the plot. And even especially noticeable with you know, trying to perform the Song of Time of the forms of the Majora's Mask, for instance, that I've also managed to order that. Most likely because of how the fact that I highly suggest you recommend playing those two games with the original cartridge-only versions of the game, with the original console of the Nintendo 64, and in addition to the original controller, because with the forms of the Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console re-releases, even though it's not that big of a deal with the forms of the 3DS remakes, because, well, the 3DS remake did that just fine with the forms of the actual Ocarina's usage. However, though, I have a little bit of a struggle with the forms of the Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console versions of those two installments of the games, just only because of how the fact that, I swear, I managed to trying to actually input those buttons correctly, but most of the time I always keep on getting screwed over by the forms of some button sequences, because the right analog stick, even with the forms of the C stick, or even the right analog stick, depends on what controllers you're using, either the Wii U gamepad, if you ever played this on your Wii U, and especially noticeable with the forms of the classic controller or even the GameCube controller. Granted though, the GameCube controller is still comfortable to hold with the forms of playing the N64 games that way, but it's just a shame because of how the fact that the right analog stick can get pretty sensitive most of the time though, even when you're trying to input those button sequences with the forms of the Ocarina songs and stuff like that, which I know for some Call Me Johnny managed to point things out right away, which, yeah, if you probably read up for his review, or in this case just watch his review, if you know exactly what I'm talking about, and that's only because of how the fact that I'm usually more stuck to this particular formula, so even then though, that makes it super obvious at this point, so even then though, yeah. Right, so it looks like we've almost done with the forms of not only some of these power moons, but also by the forms of those regional coins as well. So even then, I believe we're about 17 more to go, but I don't think we can able to actually find them all just in time though, because as you can tell, that the recording's length is actually going a little bit long enough as it is. Even not so much longer compared to the forms of the last video, but for now on though, we'll take a break on New Donk City for now, and we're about to be hit off to the next kingdom for now, because even though, despite the fact we've only got ourselves only 20 power moons at this point, so we're just able to actually insert those in. So, how much power moons do we've got now? We've got 241. Oh, that seems quite a lot. So anyways though, let's go ahead and place Cappy onto this little globe, and now we can able to actually explore through Snow Kingdom next, because I've already established that in the last video, so I think it's probably safe to say we'll go through those kingdoms time to time, obviously. So even then though, let's head off to the forms of Snow Kingdom, even though we didn't have got enough time to able to do with the rest of the kingdom, because obviously we might actually go ahead and say now, we'll probably do this, the majority of this kingdom until the next video, because, oh wow, Metro Kingdom is such a busy work, even with the forms of like, you know, obtaining the power moons and stuff, but I don't mind about it too much. What an amazingly energetic festival. Let's keep that energy going as we keep up the chase. Yeah, by going after Bowser and stuff, and even rescuing Princess Peach as a result. Which, you know, you get the drill from that point. So, well, here it is. Let's check out the Snow Kingdom then, or Snow Kingdom next. Ugh, it looks so cold, and it sounds like it's like the races in the town are quite popular, and the price it is the frosted cake. Oh, didn't expect that this will be a lot more freezing as far as that's been concerned with, even though despite the fact that today was actually also cold in the UK, even though that it's not snowy for this time yet, but either way, we've now arrived at Snow Kingdom, the cake thief's parting gift, which we'll investigate and join the next video, as I said this before. So even then, we'll have to end things off at this point right there. So yeah, join me next time on Let's Play Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. Is that we're going to be exploring through Snow Kingdom. So even then, yeah. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.